Acting Inspector General of Police Olukayode Ebetokun was decorated with his new rank on Tuesday by Vice President Kashim Shettima. The new police herdsman was appointed on Monday night by President Bola Tinubu, who left Abuja for Paris on Tuesday to attend a two-day summit, which will be hosted by President Emmanuel Macron. Details of the story will follow shortly. And still in Abuja, civil society groups fighting corruption in Nigeria want President Bola Tinubu to declare national commitment in tackling the menace. The group, which sets an anti-corruption template for the new administration, advocated for the passage of the whistleblower and witness protection bills to support the anti-graft war in the country. Take a look.
In one fell swoop, President Bola Tinubu relieved the former service chiefs, Controller General of Customs and National Security Advisor of their appointments.
For me, it's a good thing, kind of clearing everywhere so that you start with a team that...
The civil society organizations say they are worried that the modest gains recorded by the Buhari administration could be eroded due to lack of clear-cut roadmap by the Tinubu government in tackling the monster of corruption.
We cannot afford to even lose the little gains we had over the years on the fight against corruption. And we have seen signs that if we did not sustain and demand accountability and transparent governance, we may lose some of those gains that we have made.
They want the new president to demonstrate clear and unambiguous position in fighting corruption by strengthening and funding anti-graft agencies, in addition to spearheading robust legislations that would aid the crusade.
National Assembly, equally, because it's not just the executive but also the legislature, equally make that pronounced commitment and readiness, genuine readiness to fight corruption. Because if the members of the National Assembly, through their legislative activities, did not also buy in to the fight against corruption, you will see in the legal framework that they are going to be making, you will see corruption coming in.
Nigeria is among countries considered corruption endemic nations, though institutional frameworks and legislations have been put forward to reverse the trend. Not much has been achieved. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Still in Abuja, various groups and Nigerians have called on the new service chiefs to actually guarantee their security and safety, and are calling on them to improve collaboration and effective synergy. Have a look.
In one fell swoop, President Bola Tinubu relieved the former service chiefs, Controller General of Customs and National Security Advisor of their appointments.
For me, it's a good thing, kind of clearing everywhere so that you start with a team that knows exactly what you want from them and lay out expectations based on the promises that you have made.
The security chiefs must prioritize protection and promotion of safety of Nigerians. They must also ensure that they engage Nigerians to support the effort of the government in order to have a more safe country. I think it is important that our security agencies ensure that it's not just protecting the regime, but protecting the Nigerian people.
While retired Wing Commander Musa Suleiman says the appointees are eminently qualified considering their experience and understanding of the existing security threats in the country. Awal Rapsanjani picked holes in the composition of the new service chiefs.
Now there is this comradeship with Cosmet, so we expect that the Army, you will see more collaboration between the Army, the Navy and the Air Force, because all of them entered the Nigerian Defense Academy together. They are classmates, if you call it that. They grew through the service together, so they understand each other better. And here they are heading services that are supposed to work together. So, and personal relationship matters so much.
This part of the continuous challenge that we have right from Obasanjo. The politician, they always want to do this lopsided appointment. Some people believe that this appointment is not balanced. given what had happened with the Buhari administration, which was accused of not balancing the service chiefs.
Though opinions are divided over the ability of the appointments to inspire public confidence in the security system, there is growing hope that the new chiefs will work as a team to rid the country of existential and emerging security challenges. Shapir Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Viewers, welcome to Daily Politics, during which we discuss politics, policy and governance. I'm your host, Hamza Idris. We'll go on a short break, and when we return, the conversation commences. Don't go away.
That's great.
And joining me to kickstart the conversation tonight, I have in the studio Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman. He's a former spokesperson of the Nigerian Army. A general is always a general, even though he is retired. And also in the studio is Dr. Kabiru Adamu, a security and intelligence expert, as well as the Chief Executive of Beacon Consulting. And finally, we have Assistant Inspector General of Police Wilson Inalegu. He's a retired police chief and joins us virtually from Wilberforce in Sierra Leone. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
It's like our studio is fully loaded.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. General, maybe I should start with you. Yesterday we had, in fact, different newspapers describe what happened. Some said, is it a storm? Some they say brimstone and all that. How do you receive the rejigging of the security architecture by President Bola Tinubu?
It is not surprising because it was expected. And given the antecedents and tradition in this country, whenever there is elections and a new political leadership, you tend to bring in people that you think you can work with. So it is not surprising. And I'm so sure even those service chiefs, they are also expecting it. And, they have... remember the previous service chiefs, they have spent almost 4 years or 6 years, so they are about. So people, if you take an average, really, it's supposed to be 2 years. And except for the Chief of Army Staff that spent 2 years, most of them, they spent a little over 2 years. So it's something that is expected. So there is no hue and cry about it. And rather, it is yet another opportunity to see, this newly appointed service chiefs, given their antecedents and competency, what they have to bring on board.
Yeah, thank you very much. Dr. Kabiru, before I come to you, maybe I should go to Sierra Leone. AIG, what is your take on the new development in the country where the service chiefs were reshuffled and we even have a visible presence of the police in the security architecture?
Thank you very much for having me. I think when there is a new sheriff in town, we expect that it will go a long way to assuaging the concerns of people. Once these guys are not new on the job, they have all been, Egbetogun has been a police officer in the past 30-something years, and the same thing with the other service chiefs. So I think it's a good thing, and it calls for hope. One of the issues in security is about the trust of the people. I want to believe that the spread, almost all geopolitical zones, except mine, the North Central. Yeah. But then somebody said we have the SGF and all that. But what is important is that once you give people a sense of belonging, because the security architecture is built from the local level, right from the world level to the local government level, state and the national level. So now, what I think the step that the attempt they have made is to give every part of Nigeria a sense of belonging, a sense of inclusivity. And I think it's a good beginning. And what I expect therefore is for the government to not stop at this stage, but to really go through the security arrangements in the country and see what they can do to bring people on board. Because if, for example, you are developing an early warning system, it starts from the base. Somebody tells you something at a world level, you escalate it to the local government or even straight to the state level. Yeah. And then something is done about it. And so what I think the government has done is it will go a long way to reassure the people that they have a transparent desire to address the issues of security and crime in our country.
Thank you very much.
I think it's a good start.
Thank you very much, AIG. Dr. Kabiru, you have heard him, and it's like he scratched where is itching millions of Nigerians, and some of us are getting agitated. People are now making reference to where these service chiefs and others come from, instead of maybe pedigree. What is your take? Or this is a step in the right direction? Of course, the Chief of Defense Staff from Kaduna, Northwest, Chief of Air Staff from Kano, Northwest also, National Security Advisor from Northeast. We have a CDI from Cross River, that is South-South, Chief of Naval Staff, Southeast, Chief of Army Staff, Southwest, and Acting Inspector General of Police from Southwest. Is this really important in the polity?
To the extent that we are who we are, it is important. One of the allegations against the previous immediate past government was what some people described as the lopsided appointment favoring a particular ethnic or geopolitical zone. Yeah. So to that extent, the attempt by this government to show distribution. To
demystify the lopsided distribution.
To that extent, it is important. But speaking professionally, yes. It's quite unfortunate that we've reduced ourselves to discussing ethnicity in the field of security.
Yeah.
There is no direct significance to professionalism when you bring.
But as the AIG said, that this has given all parts of the country a kind of sense of belonging and trust.
I was getting there.
All right.
There are drivers of insecurity, and one of the things that drives insecurity is the perception and sometimes the reality of marginalization. So if there is a perception by a particular ethnic group that they are not represented within the security architecture, it in itself, it can drive insecurity. So to that extent, ensuring that there are individuals that ethnic group can relate to is important. But let's also emphasize the point that is just symbolic. Okay. The ability of that individual to relate to that particular ethnic group and ensure that their grievances, whether real or unreal, are heard and addressed is what is important. In other words, is there a link between that individual and the so-called ethnic group that he represents? Does he understand the cultural dynamics? AIG spoke about early warning systems. I'll give you two instances that happened within the space of 10 days. One in Plateau State, in, I think, just south or Mangu. Before Mangu.
Okay, before Mangu.
I think Barrick and Ladi. Okay. There were incidents that happened there Then you go to Benue State, Gwa local government, inter-community violence that resulted to several deaths and properties being burnt. In each instance, there were early warning systems. Now, the assumption is that if there are individuals that link to those ethnic groups, they would be able to listen and then put forward the types of demands that that particular community has, and then those demands would readily be addressed. So again, I want to emphasize that it is unfortunate that we're bringing this point as an issue of discussion in security. What matters in security is the professionalism of that person, his ability to use his skills, the experience he has garnered over time, his charisma, to address security challenges. In fact, identify them, neutralize them before they occur, or where they occur, to make sure that the consequences have been reduced.
All right, General Kukasheka, I will just take this to the bank. You have worked with, especially the new service chiefs, directly or indirectly, going by the strategic position you held, especially while in the Northeast, because all the Navy, Air Force, Army, they were all there, and you related with them. You spoke on their behalf. Can you vouch for the new set of service chiefs that we have?
Absolutely.
Why?
For obvious reasons. Having known them personally, and knowing their pedigree and antecedents over time, and you look at their wealth of experience, they traverse the three things in the military establishment, you know, command, staff, and instructional.
All of them.
So invariably, they have their fingers on what the military is all about. And if, take for instance, do you talk about the Chief of Defense Staff, who at a certain point in time, he was the Commandant, Nigerian Army Depot. You know, the manufacturing industry that you turn a civilian into, you know, a fighting machine, you know, the soldier. And of course, he saw action. He was the theater commander, Operation Hadinkai.
Yes.
So invariably, you can understand that. And if you talk about Air Vice Marshal Abubakar, he has been to so many places. And of course, even Rear Admiral Ogale, the same thing, being a directing staff and commanding ships and so on and so forth. So you pick. Do you talk about the chief of the new Chief of Defense Intelligence, you know, Odende? In fact, we call him Parker because his name is a bit long, and then in the public relations officer, sometimes
you know all of them.
So sometimes, in fact, I was almost fine to bring a cow for murdering his name. You know, it's a common joke in the military. You just have to be professional to be able to pronounce people's name as it is. So when you look at all of them, and of course the Chief of Army Staff, who had the privilege of being General Officer commanding to 82 Division, and of course
I had somewhere that he cleared the Kaduna
the Premier Division, and that is why it's quite unfortunate when there was those furious and unfounded allegations about the military, you know, along that axis. And now, before his appointment, he was the chief of operations. So he has he oversees the operational activities of the Nigerian Army, and of course he cannot. The Army doesn't operate alone. So there were liaisons with other, you know, security services and the defense headquarters, as well as other, you know, components of the security architecture. So with that, I can rest assure you. And of course, they have gone through the mills and tutelages, you know, of the past service chiefs, and they collaborated. They worked with them. So I'm so sure they will improve on it. And given that, and I've seen that more so there is, you know, the issue now basically is about intelligence. It's about cooperation, collaboration. And in fact, as a matter of fact, the military, particularly the Nigerian Army, has seen the need now. In fact, almost all the divisions are having, you know, operational planning cadres that emphasize on cooperation, collaboration, and coordination. Yesterday, I was at the headquarters of one division to deliver a paper to this officer. So you see, given that, and given the fact some of them, they knew themselves right from secondary school, because the Nigerian military school, some of them, they were classmates from NMS, and they are course-mates in the Nigerian Defense Academy. And there is no better uniting factor like common experience, especially if it is a negative experience. You know, the training, the rigors of training, and what have you. So invariably, they can relate very well with each other, and that is very, very important in dealing with the security situation.
From all indications,
and of course, the competency and the capability.
All right.
so.
Thank you. AIG now, yeah, I can see you're nodding your head in agreement with what the general is saying. You will add to that, but I will put your question. We have the National Security Advisor, a police officer. Since 1999, we didn't have any. Of course, we had Gambo Jimeta, we had Ismaila Gorzo. This was before 1999. How is it going to play out? Do you see synergy, or you have some fears from your end?
Yeah, I want to think. First of all, I identify with Nuribad, who is my coursemate. We are course 14.
Wow.
In our training, we are coursemate, so I think I have a fair idea of him. And even in the public space, he has demonstrated his passion and commitment to giving task. But the thing is, the position of the NSA is very critical to any measure you in place to deal with the issues of crime and security. Because by his role, by NSA, he is the national coordinator of security. And so he has a critical role to play. He brings his, coming from his law enforcement background and political background, and the privilege he has, where he has had to serve as chairman of the economic and financial, the EFCC. Let me just put it short. Now, he comes with a lot of experience. Therefore, I expect that with the training he has received and with the exposure that we have, he stands in a good state to deal with the issues of security. And let me give an example. And that is why I don't want us to downplay the spread of this appointments. No matter your competence, security is about trust and confidence of the public. If a section of the country don't believe that what you are doing is not correct, they are not likely to cooperate. So what Ribadu needs to do, therefore, is to look at the security architecture within the local government at the world level, because that is where the coordination comes from. From that world level to the local government security committee and the state security committee, and then going to his office where the different analysis take place. That's where you can know what is really happening in that part, in any part of the country. You begin to localize the issues. And so his position is that of an appointment that keeps him at the background. And he must not seek to be seen or heard. He must seek to just be quietly effective by coordinating with the various security heads, the CDS, the service chiefs, the IG, the DGDSS, and the other people, coordinating them. But all these things come from that village, local government, and state level. Because if you don't keep your eye, then you miss that critical element of proactivity. Because what is important is taking that proactive measures, because when you know something is cooking from the meetings that you have, from the analysis you've done, you are able to anticipate this is going to happen. So you don't wait to the extent of using kinetic, approach, unless it becomes absolutely necessary. Therefore, getting the trust and confidence of the public can never be downplayed. It's very important. And so I expect my dear friend and brother, Nuhu Ribadu, to look at the issues of, and if possible, possibly, at the zonal level, even have his office there, where they can collate some of the deliberations at the local government security committee, at the world security committee, at the state security committee, and do that analysis. And before it goes, that will enhance coordination. Because once you are having those meetings, you are bringing all the security heads, both law enforcement, intelligence, and safety. You bring them on board, and then you are creating a kind of interagency collaboration and cooperation, which is very critical. So I expect that he's got to reorganize his office, not just being at the national level, but he must work behind the scene and then effectively get things done. And you will see everywhere will begin to get calm. All we need is getting people on board, getting the CSOs, getting the different levels of artisans, different communication with the different groups. And you begin to see that everybody becomes a part of the security architecture, not just the official people. Now you have a way of coordinating with your cadre. The way you address the Okada is different from the way you address the CSOs or the different youth groups. And you begin to create Okada champions, youth champions, and you begin to create catalysts that will become, you begin to build a discrete database that you will utilize when you need them, and they come in very handy. You begin to identify the different groups. So his job is so much that it doesn't have to be feasible. He's just got to walk on the ground, get the confidence of the president.
All right.
The confidence of the security soldiers.
Right.
No need for any quarrel or anything. He's just working, not seen, because it's not tactical or operational.
Thank you very much, AIG. And I'm tempted to go to General before I come to you, Doctor. You have heard what he said. It's like being a police officer, talking about first line of defense. Of course, he has spoken on the pedigree of Nuhu Ribadu. I want to have your take on this. He's going to work with Army generals, at the, Army, Navy, and what have you. Is he really a right peg in the right hole, as the proverbial saying goes?
Absolutely so. And I would like to refer back to what my brother has said. It's quite unfortunate that we tend to look at things these extraneous variables, that tend to inhibit the issue. The security is not that. I think what people should understand is the issue, one, that the President Commander-in-Chief has the powers, has the discretion to appoint whoever he deems fit to that office of the National Security Advisor or to advise him on security. Yes, I agreed. We have to look at issues about wealth of experience, knowledge, competency, and capability. And if you look at what the National Security Advisor does, is coordinating those security architectures that are in charge of intelligence. And beyond that, he also aggregates and advises the president as it is. So people tend to look at it from this egotism.
The narrow perspective.
Exactly. Anybody with these qualities will be the National Security Advisor. Of course, diplomacy is involved, liaison is involved, and all the rest. And everybody knows who is Malam Nuhu Ribadu.
Yes.
They attest to his integrity, competency, and ability to liaise and to make sure that he give the very best he could offer to the nation. So all these things, so it is not issue of generals and all the rest. And in any case, the people that have been appointed as security chiefs, they are people that are ready to do the best for their country. So it's just question of liaising, question of understanding, question of cooperating, question of collaborating with each other, and for the benefit of the Nigerian society. So basically, he is more than competent and qualified, to perform those duties.
Wow, as a civilian doctor, are you in agreement with what the general said, that there will be synergy, that there won't be this issue of, okay, this one is a policeman, this one is this one is that?
There has to be a change of mindset. And I say this with all sense of responsibility. From 1999 up until now, it has been assumed that that office is that of the military. So naturally, there may be some pushback. If I were in his shoes, I will start with that assumption and then come up with strategies to dissolve any roadblocks that I may encounter. As an example, he is lucky to inherit one of the most capable and suited conference centers that would accommodate any type of security council.
You're talking about the Office of the National Security Advisor, which was unveiled not quite long, right?
Exactly. So that gives him the leverage to invite any member of the security sector that he feels will be relevant to his work, and then in doing so, emphasize the importance of his role as National Security Coordinator. One of the challenges that I hope that may come up is that his immediate predecessor attempted to operationalize that office. And that is completely against the provisions of the Constitution. That office, like the General has mentioned, it's a coordinating body. It is advisory. The moment you start incorporating operational functions, then you are encroaching in the role of the generals. The Chief of Defense Staff, as an example, Chief of Army Staff, and the others. And that is when competition and rivalry will come in, because you are taking away their job, as it were. And so those are areas that he needs to be very careful about. I honestly don't know the answer, because he's going to inherit them. There are examples I can give you that will show they are already in that office. And so he has to, and with the support of the president, I believe that the president has confidence in him. That's why he appointed him. So he's going to have his support 100%, and he will need that support in addressing these issues that he's going to inherit. I don't want to sit here and assume that there are no challenges. There will be challenges. He needs to go with the knowledge that those challenges are there, and then to address them.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Earlier in the program, we give you a tidbit on the decoration of the new IGP, and we now have the full report. Have a look before we go for break.
At a short ceremony at State House, newly appointed National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu, Secretary to the Government of the Federation George Akume, and Chief of Staff to the President Femi Gbajabiamila witnessed the decoration of the Acting Inspector General of Police. Vice President Kashim Shettima presides over this event in the absence of President Tinubu, who is away on diplomatic shuttle. Olukayode Egbetokun is to act as the Inspector General of Police until he is confirmed by the Senate. He describes in colorful language his readiness to take on the task ahead.
Now, I have just been decorated, and I'm looking forward to taking over tomorrow morning by 11 a.m. I really can't describe how I feel presently, but if I have to tell you anything, I will tell you that right now, I feel like a tiger inside of me, ready to chase away all the criminals in Nigeria. And some other time, I feel like a lion in me, ready to devour all the enemies, internal enemies of Nigeria. That's my feeling right now. Thank you.
Former Inspector General of Police Usman Baba is confident that his successor will carry the mantle of leadership from where he has stopped.
Very significant, like you have mentioned. It's a stage. You come, you walk, and you go. I'm happy I'm handing over to somebody I know that will carry the mantle of leadership from where I have stopped. We grew up in the job. We grew up together. I was his boss at the time, not even when I was IG. He worked under me twice. We've been working together, and I know how he can go ahead to champion the cause of the police from where I have stopped.
Aside from the Inspector General of Police, President Tinubu swept in a new set of security chiefs on Monday night, demonstrating his willingness to take firm decisions to secure the nation. From State House, Abuja, Kehinde Amudu, Trust TV News.
That was former IGP Baba extolling the virtues of his successor. I want to have your last take because you have another engagement on this. Going forward, which area do you think the new IGP should explore? Because quite a number of military officers are the ones handling security architecture in the country. What is your advice to him?
Well, it's no question of advice. He's been sufficiently trained and he's experienced enough. So basically, but one thing we have to emphasize is the issue of collaborating with his colleagues, in the security architecture to, ensure that they work in harmony for the benefit of Nigerians and the Nigeria as a whole.
Thank you very much, Brigadier General Sadiku Kasheka Usman, the former spokesperson of the Nigerian Army, for coming to the program. Despite your tight schedule, we have to have you again. And we're bidding you bye-bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll go on a short break, and when we return, the conversation continues. Don't go away. Welcome back. If you are just joining, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. Do well to follow the conversation across our social platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and watch us live on YouTube. Still have in the studio Dr. Kabiru Adamu, security and intelligence expert, as well as the Chief Executive of Beacon Consult. We also have Assistant Inspector General Police retired Wilson Enelagu, who joins us from Wilberforce in Sierra Leone. Doctor, you have national security architecture. I've seen quite a number, but yours appear different. I wanted to shed more light on it, on the enormous responsibility around the security establishment and whether it's really working or not, because I can see we have the Office of the National Security Advisor, we have the Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Police Affairs, Ministry of Agriculture, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, and then the Chief of Staff to the President. All of them, they have certain security sectors under them. Is it normal?
No, it's not normal, unfortunately. It's a creation that over time, for some reasons, this convoluted structure that you are seeing has evolved.
Okay.
And part of the reason why we did this is to show how collaboration and coordination would be difficult in this circumstance.
Oh.
Yes. Let me use the police as an example. If you look at this structure,
yes,
you find out that there are several agencies that carry out policing functions,
yes,
but are now spread into different ministries.
Okay.
NDLEA as an example. Then if you go under Ministry of Interior, you have the Correctional Service, you have NC, Nigeria Civil Security and Civil Defense Corps,
yes,
to an extent. And then if you go under Ministry of Police Affairs, which is the main ministry,
yes,
you have several others too. You can also argue that EFCC and to an extent ICPC carry out policing functions. Because remember, they were actually removed from the police to create that body. Most of the chairpersons of EFCC have been former police officers, apart from the immediate past chairman. Yes. So in this instance, you have different agencies of policing under different ministries. How do they come together to carry out their work when these ministries are autonomous? And there is no platform really that I'm aware of, except for bi-monthly meeting that sometimes takes place, which is to discuss general security and not necessarily to discuss policing functions. So this is part of the reason why we thought this structure would show the relevance and importance of appointing someone who has an internal security background, like Nuhu Ribadu. Malam Nuhu Ribadu.
Yeah, to man the national security.
If you count all of these agencies that I've mentioned,
yes,
apart from the 4 that are military, all the others are to an extent either paramilitary or some component of civilian security. And all in all, we counted them, there are 29.
They are offshoot of the police.
If you take 4 out of 29, it means you still have 25.
Yes.
And one of them, customs, as an example. Imagine the significance of the custom in national security and immigration.
But they've been taken somewhere, Ministry of Interior.
No, customs at the last time.
Okay, presidency.
It used to be with finance, and then now with presidency. So you get how convoluted. Now, it is this that makes me worried. We've appointed individuals that are capable, but this is what they are inheriting.
All right, let me hear from AIG. What is your take on this? You've seen the organogram there, and Dr. Adamu is already comfortable with it.
Thank you very much. I've seen the organogram. It's a little bit faint, but this is rather because the understanding the understanding I want you to have.
Yes.
On the national security architecture, which eventually should be properly codified. Because when you are talking about security architecture, you take it from the ward level. And I like to talk about the ward level because even at those ward level, you have police posts. And they're very critical. You have the paramount chiefs in some of those places. And those can have their own security committee, which you can call either Emir Security Committee or District Security Committee, which can be DISEC, for example.
Or vigilante groups.
And then you have, for example, so when you have something like the district or ward or chiefdoms, and all those places, you need to have those. And so when you progress from there, you then progress to the local government. Now, in the local government, who are the security heads in that local government? You have the DPU. You could have the prison superintendent. You could have the NDLA commander. You could have civil defense, and you could have safety, people like the road safety, the fire service. Now, when you progress it from there up to the state level, but the unfortunate thing that we have, that they hardly meet. Even the local government security committees never meet. So even if you have a world level security committee and you observe something, you don't even know whom to pass it to. And that is why in my earlier decision, I emphasized that the role of the National Security Advisor is, in effect, is the national coordinator of security. And also I did suggest that coming on board, he's got to look at the structure of his office and the security architecture and begin to look at it. How do I get this organized? And when you are talking of proactivity or coordination of security, and you don't have those, I did make remarks about those. And that's why I say, even you could start in the geopolitical zones, you could have his coordinators, national security coordinator. And what do? They begin to bring together the deliberations. And then he can make suggestions because of talking about duplicity and other things. And then he will observe his coordinators in the geopolitical zones. But if there is funding, it's even better he makes it state. That means the state security committees, when they are meeting, his coordinator is there. And in that way, if the meetings are not taking place, and the governors are only waiting until there has been a spike in kidnapping, spike in banditry, then they will call meeting.
Yeah, maybe we have a little glitch with the connectivity. We'll get back to him. And you have heard what he said. How do you think the National Security Advisor will get it right? Because some of the components he mentioned, like vigilantes and all that, they are not captured as per government, to say that, okay, they are part of the real security architecture of the country.
Yeah, the constitution only
and local security, is very important, as he mentioned. Yeah.
But the framework for that is to be driven by some of the agencies that exist within the federal security structure. Okay. So, as an example, the police, just like he explained, has chain of command down to the local government, and that the essence of that is for representation. And then recently, under President Buhari, they implemented community policing, and I think we have a community policing committee in each local government. Yeah. We also have constables that have been recruited. So that will be the task of the new...
Those constabularies, right?
Constabularies, not constables, sorry, constabularies.
Yes.
It will be the responsibility of the new AIG to implement that reform. A document has been created. That document was given to the immediate past AIG. I would urge the new AIG to pick that document, see the components of the reform. We've just mentioned two. The challenge with the constabularies is something about payment. When the policy was introduced, politicians thought there was money to it. So they brought a lot of their people into it, and then eventually recognized that there was no money. The conception, the idea was not to pay them any money. They are working for the community.
Community is like volunteerism.
Volunteer, exactly. So now there is that challenge. Where does the money come from to pay them? So the new AIG, working together with the minister, once he's appointed, will have to find a solution to that. The other one is to ensure that the community policing committees in each local government becomes functional. Now with that, it means we would know what is happening at that level. Because once they're meeting, they will be able to discuss issues that affect them, and then it will be cascaded up to probably even the AIG before action is taken.
All right, thank you very much. Now, AIG, we're talking about funding, which is very important. You have had Dr. Adamu, talking about that. Yes. How can the new IGP leverage on the new government the opportunity at his disposal to make sure that there is adequate funding for the police so that we have less of military presence for civil matters in the country?
Well, I think the IG has to show competence and capability. That the MPF is able to play its role as the leading as the agency that has primacy on internal security. And that will start, of course, resources, equipment, personnel hiring, because the number that we have today is the Nigeria police is grossly understaffed. So he will need to leverage on his relationship with the CEC to get more hands into the force.
All right.
And then when you have this, you talk of equipment, because you cannot talk of security these days without talking about technology. So he will need technology. He will need to look for the right officers in right position.
All right.
Most officers who do their work, some are quite good, but some are better. Let's look at competence. And this competence is not about going to school to just cram and pass. And you are talking about community partnership, community engagement, eschewing corruption, having that passion for the job.
All right.
Because the IG will be in a position to identify these officers. And then, sorry, I need to make a point. The AIGs are hardly utilized.
Okay.
And I have always said, the commissioners of police are right there at the middle level.
All right.
The AIG is a link between the commissioner and the IG.
Yeah.
So the IG must not go micromanage.
Okay.
He must utilize
he must delegate,
assistant inspector generals of police.
Exactly.
So that
Thank you
in
very
their
much,
offices,
AIG.
they can have monitoring and evaluation to begin to monitor what the officers do. So the IG must not see himself as a sole administrator, but that he's got capable DIGs.
Thank you very much. I'm forced to cut you.
That's the way he's going to succeed.
Limited time we have. Yeah. Thank you very much. May I have your final take in less than 30 seconds? He's talking about delegation of responsibility and then more hands and all that. But just for the Army, for instance, in 2015, the budget was 150, it ballooned to 580. Air Force from 77, it has ballooned to 184. Your final was, how can we get it right? We can see the funding has never ceased, but the demands keep increasing.
Accountability.
Excellent.
As simple as that.
All right.
In the area of financial accountability and then operational accountability.
All right.
Financial accountability would plug all the loopholes. Police generates a lot of funding.
Yeah.
A lot of funding.
So they should be accountable.
And the new IG needs to look at that. How does he remove that funding from the pockets of individuals into the policing coffers so that they use it? The same thing with the service chiefs.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Kabir Adamu, security expert, as well as the executive of Beacon Consulting for coming to the program. And AIG Wilson Alelagu, thank you very much for joining us in the program.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Have you again. Thank you. Viewers, that's a wrap. Until this edition, join us tomorrow for another interesting package. Bye-bye for now. I am Hamza Idris.